Hey guys, this is CyberKnight 610, and I messed up on the last video on chaining and priority, different things like that, so I'm going to try to explain it better in this one. I did have a point on what I was saying, but I got something mixed up, and I will try to explain that for anybody that happened to watch that video. I was only up there for a little bit, and I will try to explain what the mess up was, so hopefully get you guys on the right track. So yeah. First off, I have like all kinds of papers around me to try to explain everything, so let's try to get some things in order real quick. If you hear paper rustling, that's what that is. Let's go with chains first. A chain is basically, you're countering an opponent's card effect. That's basically what a chain is. I keep hitting the tripod, sorry about that. Is a response, though, like a counter. For example, here I'm going to show you guys a quick example. Alright, I have Quickplay on my side of the field. I just kind of got some random cards. It doesn't really matter. You know, it could be any monster. It doesn't really make a big difference. And I attack. Well, a chain then starts to use Dimensional Prison. And that would be your first link in the chain. Now, if I were to counter, I could add to that chain, you know, which would be another counter, and would use 7 Tools of the Bandit, which would negate Dimensional Prison. That would hurt my monster. And that would be adding a second link to the chain. That's the reason it's called chain, because you're adding a link every time you counter. You know, if my opponent had another card, let's say another 7 Tools of the Bandit, you know, they could probably negate that, and it'd just keep going, and, you know, over and over on different card effects. So you just keep chaining on things. One part that I got messed up on, because I know people are thinking right now, well, you said you couldn't chain to an attack. That goes more into priority, so I'll get to that here in just a second. Another example of a chain, I thought I might as well do that too, is whenever I'm about to summon a monster, I can summon this, alright, then my opponent would activate Trap Hole, or Bottomless. I mean, I'm just using Trap Hole though, because it was one of the cards in the top of my pile of cards, and activate that, which would destroy Dekoichi, but if I counter it, you know, chain to that even, and then I use 7 Tools of Bandit yet again, then that would also be another example. Basically the same thing, but I figure it won't hurt to show both examples. And that's a summoning, and of course I did say on that too, you can chain to a summoning, which in a sec, like I said, I've explained on that. Those were 2 things I messed up on the last video. Alright, that's pretty much your chains. I mean, there's not a... it's kind of hard to explain, but I think that's the best way I can explain that. Priority and speed spells go along with that, but we'll go to those here in just a second. I guess priority first. Priority is basically giving you the right to the chain. For example, different cards have different speeds, which involves speed spells. And we'll get to that at the end of the video. I'll describe what different speeds a spell is, but here's like a good definition example of it here. Priority can be defined as a player's right to be able to activate his or her effect, ensuring its spot on chain link 1. So that's the beginning of the chain. Priority does not allow players to automatically activate and resolve effects without a chain. It simply ensures that the card's activation, not resolution, and guarantees a place on chain link 1. How the chain resolves is up to the players. Priority tells you who can activate the effect at any certain point in the game. Note that cards never have priority. It's the players who have priority. And the turn player always starts with priority. So if it's your turn, you have the priority. It's basically giving you the right to that first activation, the first part of the chain, is what I'm trying to say. This might get a little confusing, so like I always say, please leave any questions in the comments. This is where I messed up. I said in my other video that whenever a monster is summoned, you cannot chain to that. There was a bit of a mess up, but there was a point to what I said too. I understand what I messed up on. Alright, you only have a limited window of what you can activate against it. Alright, so whenever I summon Dekoichi, if my opponent, you know, says, well, I don't really want to activate Trap Hole right now, they miss their priority. They miss the timing and all that stuff. So, you know, they can't go, after I go ahead and start my battle phase, they can't go ahead and activate Trap Hole. You know, it's done. They miss their chance. That's what I meant by that, because, it's weird, but a summon or an attack doesn't have a speed spell. Like I said, we'll go over that in greater detail here in a sec. So that's why, you know, you only have like a small window of opportunity. on that. It's the same for, you know, if I was attacking and of course my opponent was waiting until like they got the battle damage to activate Dimensional Prison, where they missed their timing, they already got the battle damage from the attack, so, you know, they've already missed their priority. And of course there are bigger cases of priority to go over, like Honest and Collude, you know, which one would activate first. There's always been different things of what priority can do. I can't even say the word after a while. And it's probably one of the #1 things that if you lose a duel, you know, unfairly, that's probably the reason. You know, that's the reason we have so many judges these days, is because priority is such a pain to understand that some people don't know, you know, what card would activate first and everything like that. Let's see. Let's go on to speed spells. It kind of explains on how priority works as well. Hopefully you guys are understanding this. This is, like I said, really advanced stuff. I will try to have links to some of this from the Wikipedia even. You should have all this in your rulebook as well. A speed spell is basically different spells, monsters, and monster effects, I mean, and traps and counter traps have a different speed. Sorry, I can't talk. And depending on that speed is when they can be activated during a chain. Alright, now I'm going to go over what a speed spell 1 is. A speed spell 1 is a normal spell, an equip spell, continuous spell, field spell, or ritual. Or it's an effect monster's effect of ignition, trigger, or flip. We went over all this stuff in past videos. If you don't remember, please go back to that. It's the slowest of all speed spells, of course, and they cannot be activated in response to an effect. You know, so you can't, you know, chain and equip to something else. It can only be chained to, for example, or, you know, a continuous or a normal spell, different things like that. So they can typically they cannot be chained to a chain 2 or higher. They're always more likely they're the first chain, the beginning of it. A speed spell 2 would be a normal trap, continuous trap, Quickplay Spells, or effect monsters with quick effects. These are usually to just respond to another speed spell 2 or just a speed spell 1 effect, and they can be activated during any phase of the turn. Most of speed spell 1s will be activated during the main phase. You know, because you'll have to activate it when you can't activate them in the battle phase, different things like that. Speed spell 2, however, you can activate, you know, any time your opponent's turn, different things like that, just whenever the requirements are met of that card. So that's the reason, too, why they are faster, you know, they can do more, and of course, why they are most of the time used to counter other cards. Different things like that, so that's the reason they're speed spell 2. So they're used to the second part of that chain. You know how we went over, well, after attack, well, the beginning of the chain would be using Dimensional Prison. Well, the second part of that chain is 7 Tools of the Bandit, which is a counter trap, which we're just about to go over. A speed spell 3 is a counter trap, which is, of course, 7 Tools of the Bandit is a counter trap, so that's a pretty good example of one. It's the fastest of all speed spells, and it can respond to any type of speed spell, and only one... sorry, I'm misreading something here. Only another speed spell 3 can be used to respond to these cards, so you can only respond to another counter trap with a counter trap. So you can't continue with the chain unless you have another counter trap. So my opponent would have to have another one. You know, they couldn't use a field spell or monster effect, anything. It has to be a counter trap to respond to a counter trap, because it would be, you know, probably your last chain length unless your opponent had one. So more likely it's going to be the last link of the chain. So yeah, that's the basic understanding of the speed spells. It's, like I said, really hard to understand. You will have a chart in your rulebook. I think even the newer rulebooks have one. I think this is a little bit older, but here's like I don't know if it's really coming into focus too great, but it will list everything like that for you guys, and make sure to read up on that. It's really hard to memorize some of it. They even have an example on here of different speed spells in it all too, but I use pretty good ones already. So yeah, I think that pretty much explains everything. Hopefully this is a lot better video than the last one. I'm sorry that I messed up on that. I messed up on not saying that there was a limited window of when a monster is summoned or attacked that you could chain to it. But it does count as a chain. If you normal summon something and use bottomless to it, that is a chain link 1. So that was something I did mess up on. That does count as a chain link 1, and I'm sorry for that mess up. So yeah, I can admit when I'm wrong on that. So yeah, thank you for watching. Hopefully this is a lot better understanding of this. I'm sorry if you still don't understand after this, because it is a pain. Like I said many times, if you don't understand, especially this, then you really need to just like play the game on like a video game, some kind of video game version of it, because it will go over this a lot better for you. I think it's way easier just to do that. I've learned most Yu-Gi-Oh! From playing like the DS game, especially when I was first learning, and then you can kind of read the rulebook along with it. You can really understand it a lot easier. It kind of holds your hand through the process of dueling. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you have any questions at all, please leave them in the comments. Hopefully, like I said, this was a way better explanation. And try not to be too picky, because I always have people lately that are trying to pick on anything that I mess up on. But I think I've covered everything on here. So yeah, any questions at all? Please tell me. And please subscribe. And I'm really sorry for the mess up too. I can't say that enough. I can admit when I'm wrong on that, and I was wrong on that part. So hopefully this will be a lot better. Alright, bye YouTube.